My name is Andrea Hayes, and I'm 34 years old. 3 weeks ago, on Saturday, October 14th, 2024, my father's retirement party turned into the most uncomfortable 6 minutes of my entire life. My sister Rebecca stood in front of 60 people at the Riverside Country Club in Sacramento, California, smiled her perfect smile, and announced she had a special surprise for Dad. She handed out 15 cream-colored envelopes to specific family members. "Just a little toast," she said. Everyone opened them at the same time. When my mother opened hers, the color drained from her face like someone had pulled a plug. My father went completely still, wine glass frozen halfway to his mouth. My Uncle Tom stood up so fast, his chair fell backward. And my Aunt Diane started crying before she even finished reading. In 6 minutes, 30 years of family secrets came crashing down in the middle of a retirement party with a jazz quartet playing in the background. Before I tell you what was in those envelopes, you need to understand who my sister Rebecca is. Because what she did wasn't random. It was calculated, precise, and it had been years in the planning. Before we get into this, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if the story truly resonates with you. And drop your location and local time in the comments. I want to know where you are right now, listening to this. Rebecca is 4 years older than me. She's 38, a corporate litigation attorney at Morrison & Fletcher in San Francisco. One of those massive firms with offices on 3 floors of a downtown high-rise. She's brilliant. The kind of brilliant that makes people uncomfortable. She was valedictorian at McClatchy High School in Sacramento. Full ride to Stanford. Top 10% of her law school class. She's the daughter who made it big, who left Sacramento and built something impressive. But she's also the daughter who barely came home. Growing up, Rebecca and I weren't close. 4 years is a big gap when you're kids. By the time I was in middle school, she was already at Stanford. By the time I graduated high school, she was in law school at Berkeley. By the time I got married at 26, she was a junior partner at her firm, working 80-hour weeks and sending expensive gifts instead of showing up to family events. We'd see each other at Christmas, maybe Thanksgiving if her schedule allowed. She was polite, distant, always on her phone taking calls from clients. My mother used to say, "Rebecca's very important, very busy. We're so proud of her." I was the other daughter, the one who stayed local. I went to Sacramento State, got my teaching credential, became a middle school English teacher. I married my college boyfriend Kevin when I was 26, divorced him when I was 32. Amicable split, no kids. We just grew apart. I bought a small townhouse in Land Park, adopted a cat named Gatsby, and lived a quiet life teaching 8th graders about To Kill a Mockingbird and trying to convince them that semicolons matter. My parents were proud of me in that polite, distant way. People are proud of something sensible but not exciting. Andrea's a teacher, very stable, very reliable. Reliable. That was my role in the Hayes family. Rebecca was the star. I was the steady one. Our parents, Donald and Linda Hayes, built their entire lives on reputation. My father worked at Pacific Trust Bank for 40 years, starting as a loan officer in 1984 and working his way up to vice president of operations. He was respected, well-liked. The kind of man who wore suits even on Saturdays and played golf at the country club with judges and city council members. My mother was a real estate agent for 25 years before retiring 5 years ago. She sold houses in East Sacramento, the nice historic neighborhood where we grew up. She was active in the Daughters of the American Revolution, volunteered at our church, hosted dinner parties where everything matched and nothing was ever out of place. The Hayes family had a reputation. Solid. Respectable. Church on Sundays, chamber music concerts on Friday nights, donations to the right charities, memberships at the right clubs. We looked perfect, and for 34 years I believed we were. The retirement party had been planned for months. Dad was turning 65, retiring after 4 decades at Pacific Trust Bank. Mom treated the planning like a military operation. Guest list vetted and re-vetted. Venue selected a year in advance, catering from the best company in Sacramento, invitations printed on heavy cardstock with gold lettering. 60 guests. family. Dad's colleagues from the bank, friends from church, neighbors, business associates. Everyone who mattered in Donald Hayes' carefully constructed world. Rebecca offered to help with the planning, which surprised me. She never helped with family events. She was always too busy, too far away, too important. But in June, she called Mom and said, "Let me handle some of the details. I want to make this special for Dad." Mom was thrilled. "Rebecca's taking time off work to help. Can you believe it?" I should have known something was off. The week before the party, Rebecca came to Sacramento and stayed with me. She'd never done that before. Usually she stayed at a hotel or at Mom and Dad's house. But she called and asked, "Can I crash with you for the week? I need some space to work on the party stuff." "Sure," I said. "Guest rooms all yours." She arrived on Sunday, October 8th, with 2 suitcases and a locked file box. Dark gray, metal, with a combination lock. She carried it carefully into my guest room and set it on the desk. "What's in the box?" I asked. "Party materials, speeches, photos, that kind of thing." "You locked it?" She smiled. "Old lawyer habit, I lock everything." That week, Rebecca was strange. She was home most of the time, working on her laptop at my kitchen table or in the guest room with the door closed. She took calls at odd hours, spoke in hushed tones. She seemed nervous, which wasn't like her. Rebecca was always composed, always in control. On Thursday night, 2 days before the party, I made dinner. Pasta, salad, wine. We sat at my small dining table, and I asked, "Are you okay? You seem tense." She twirled pasta on her fork, didn't look at me. "I'm fine. Just want the party to go well. It's a retirement party, not a murder trial." She looked up then. Her eyes were sharp, focused. "Some things matter more than others, Andrea. It's Dad's party. Of course it matters." "That's not what I mean." She set down her fork. "Do you ever feel like our family is performing? Like we're all playing roles and nobody's saying what's actually true?" I thought about it. I mean, every family has dynamics. We're not unique. What if I told you we are? What if I told you there's something about this family you don't know? Something big. My stomach tightened. "What are you talking about?" She shook her head. "You'll see. Saturday." "Rebecca, you're scaring me." "Good. You should be scared." "I am." She didn't elaborate. We finished dinner in silence. Saturday, October 14th, 2024. The Riverside Country Club sits on a bluff overlooking the American River, all white columns and manicured lawns, and the kind of quiet money that doesn't need to announce itself. I've been there 100 times growing up for weddings, charity events, the annual Christmas party. The retirement party started at 2 p.m. I arrived early to help Mom with last-minute details. She was in her element, directing the caterers, adjusting flower arrangements, checking the seating chart for the 15th time. "Andrea, you're at table 3 with your cousins. Rebecca's at the head table with us and the Morses." Philip Morse was Dad's former business partner, semi-retired now but still involved in some consulting. His wife had passed away 3 years ago. He was coming alone. "Got it," I said. Dad arrived at 1:30 pretending to be surprised even though he'd known about the party for months. He wore his best suit, navy blue, the one he saved for important occasions. He looked happy, relaxed, the man of the hour. Guests started arriving. Uncle Tom and Aunt Diane came with my cousins Melissa and Brian. Uncle Tom is Dad's younger brother, owns a plumbing supply company in Roseville. Aunt Diane is an elementary school principal. They're good people, stable, the kind of family you'd see in a commercial for life insurance. Melissa, my cousin, is 29, a dental hygienist, recently engaged. Brian is 26, works in tech support for a startup. We're not super close, but we're friendly, Christmas card family. Church friends arrived. Pastor Jim Caldwell and his wife Susan, the Taylors, the Kims, the Brennans. Charlotte Brennan, a woman in her late 60s who'd been friends with my mom for decades, gave me a hug that lasted a beat too long. "How are you, sweetheart?" she asked. Good, Mrs. Brennan. You? Oh, you know. Getting older. She glanced around. Big day for your dad. Big day, I agreed. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Your sister here yet? Not yet. She walked away, and I had the strangest feeling she was nervous. Rebecca arrived at exactly 20 p.m. She wore a navy blue suit, tailored perfectly, her dark hair pulled back in a low bun. Professional, composed, every inch the successful attorney. Her daughter Rachel was with her, 15 years old, tall and quiet. Rachel lived primarily with Rebecca after Rebecca's divorce 4 years ago. Rebecca was carrying a brown leather portfolio. She walked straight to the head table, set the portfolio down, hugged Dad, kissed Mom on the cheek. From across the room, I watched. She seemed calm. Too calm. The party followed the schedule perfectly. Cocktail hour, mingling, appetizers. Then everyone took their seats for the meal. 60 people at round tables with white tablecloths and centerpieces of white roses. The jazz quartet played softly in the corner. Standards, nothing too loud. I sat at table 3 with Melissa, Brian, and a few of Dad's bank colleagues I'd met over the years. We made small talk, ate salad, chicken, roasted vegetables. Everything was perfect. Too perfect. At 3:45, Mom stood up and tapped her wine glass with a spoon. The room quieted. Thank you all so much for being here to celebrate Donald's incredible 40-year career at Pacific Trust Bank. Don, you've been an amazing husband, father, and friend. We're so proud of you. Applause. Dad stood, waved, smiled. Gracious. Humble. We have a few toasts planned, Mom continued. But first, Rebecca has prepared something special. Rebecca stood. She picked up the leather portfolio and walked to the center of the room, between the tables where everyone could see her. Thank you, Mom. Rebecca's voice was clear, strong, the voice she uses in courtrooms. Dad, congratulations on an incredible career. 40 years is a testament to dedication, loyalty, and hard work. She opened the portfolio. Inside were cream-colored envelopes. 15 of them. She began pulling them out, one by one. I thought it would be meaningful, Rebecca said, for Dad to hear from all the people he's impacted over these 40 years. So I've prepared a special toast, a toast from multiple perspectives. She started walking around the room, handing out envelopes. One to Mom, one to Dad, one to Uncle Tom, one to Aunt Diane, one to Melissa, one to Brian, one to Philip Morse, one to Charlotte Brennan, one to Pastor Caldwell, 4 more to other church friends and family friends whose names I barely registered, one to me, one to Rachel, her own daughter, and she kept one for herself, 15 total. These envelopes contain toasts, memories, acknowledgments. Rebecca said as she handed out the last one, I thought it would be meaningful for everyone to share their thoughts. Everyone, please open your envelopes at the same time. She returned to the center of the room. Go ahead, open them. Read silently first. Then, we'll each share. I looked at the envelope in my hands. My name was written on the front in Rebecca's precise handwriting, Andrea. I glanced at Mom. She was holding her envelope unopened, looking at Rebecca with confusion. Dad was smiling, wine glass in hand, waiting. Uncle Tom looked curious. Rebecca said, Now please. 60 people watched as 15 of us opened cream-colored envelopes. I slid my finger under the seal, pulled out a single typed page, and started reading. Andrea, I'm sorry you're finding out this way. But you deserve to know the truth. What follows in the next few minutes is going to be hard. It's going to hurt. It's going to change everything you thought you knew about our family. I love you. I'm doing this for you as much as for anyone. Rebecca. My heart started pounding. I looked up. Mom had opened her envelope. She was reading. Her hands started shaking. The paper trembled. I watched the color drain from her face. Literally watched it happen. Like someone had pulled a plug and all the blood just left. She looked at Rebecca. Her mouth opened. No sound came out. Then she whispered, Rebecca, what is this? Dad was reading his envelope slowly. His face went rigid. The wine glass in his hand froze halfway to his mouth. He didn't move, didn't speak, just stared at the paper like it was written in a language he didn't want to understand. Uncle Tom shot up from his chair. It fell backward with a crash. "What the hell is this?" His voice was loud, cutting through the soft jazz music. The quartet stopped playing. Aunt Diane was crying. Not quiet tears. Broken sobs. She turned to Mom. Her face twisted in pain. "You knew?" Diane's voice cracked. "You knew?" Around the room, the other people who'd received envelopes were reading. Philip Morse, Dad's old business partner, stood up slowly, staring at Dad with an expression I'd never seen before. Disgust. Pure disgust. Pastor Caldwell closed his eyes, shook his head. Charlotte Brennan whispered, "Oh my God, Linda." Melissa was staring at her envelope, her mouth open in shock. Brian looked confused, reading and rereading like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Rachel, Rebecca's daughter, was crying silently. The rest of the room, the 45 people who hadn't received envelopes, sensed something was wrong. Conversations died. Silverware stopped clinking. Everyone turned to watch. Rebecca remained standing in the center of the room, calm, controlled. She looked at Dad, then at Mom, then at the entire room. "For those of you who didn't receive an envelope," she said, her voice carrying over the silence, "I'll summarize." Mom stood up. "Rebecca, stop this right now." "No, Mom. We're done protecting him. We're done protecting you." Dad's voice, finally. "Rebecca, you have no right." She cut him off. "I have every right. He's my brother. Half-brother, but brother. You abandoned him. You paid his mother to stay silent. You let him grow up thinking his father didn't want him." The room went completely silent. I stared at Rebecca. "Brother?" she continued, her voice steady, every word deliberate. "My father, Donald Hayes, the man we're here to celebrate today, has been lying to this family and this community for 30 years. In 1994, he had an affair with a woman named Stephanie Morrison. She was a bank teller at Pacific Trust. She was 24 years old. My father was 35, married to my mother for 10 years. Mom sank back into her chair. Dad just stood there frozen. The affair lasted 8 months. Stephanie got pregnant. In December 1995, she gave birth to a son. His name is Nathan Morrison. He's 28 years old now. He lives in Portland. He's a high school history teacher. And until 2 years ago, when I found him, he'd spent his entire life believing his father didn't want him." Uncle Tom was staring at Dad, his face red. "You told me there was no child, Don. You told me it was a one-time mistake, that you were helping her get back on her feet. You lied to me." Dad finally spoke, his voice hoarse. "Tom, I can't explain." "Explain. You use my business to launder money. You made me complicit in this. Diane and I almost divorced because of what you asked me to do, and you lied about why." Aunt Diane was sobbing into her hands. Melissa put her arm around her mother. Rebecca wasn't done. "For those who received envelopes, you know the details, but for everyone else, here's what happened. My father and mother made a deal with Stephanie Morrison. They would pay her $2,000 a month to raise Nathan alone, to keep Dad's name off the birth certificate, to keep quiet about the affair. They've been making those payments for 28 years. That's $672,000. Gasps around the room. That money came from family money, specifically from my grandmother Catherine's inheritance. When she died in 2016, her will stated that her estate, approximately $800,000, was to be split between me and Andrea. We should have each received $400,000. Instead, we each received $250,000. Our parents told us that was the full inheritance. They lied. They'd already used $300,000 of it to pay off Stephanie Morrison. They stole from us to hide Dad's affair and his son. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I looked at Mom. She was crying now, mascara running down her face. Rebecca held up her envelope. These envelopes contained documentation, bank statements, copies of checks, a birth certificate for Nathan Morrison, born December 18, 1995 in Roseville, California. A current photograph of Nathan, letters between my mother and Stephanie Morrison, and for certain recipients, she looked at Uncle Tom, at Philip Morse, at Pastor Caldwell, proof of their involvement or knowledge. Uncle Tom to Dad, you told me you were helping a friend. You said it was a business loan. You had me set up accounts, move money through my company books. I committed fraud for you. Philip Morse stepped forward. His voice was cold. In 1996, Don came to me and admitted he'd used company resources to facilitate this affair. Small amounts from discretionary funds. Technically embezzlement. He begged me to help him cover it up quietly, said it would destroy the bank's reputation if it came out. I was a coward. I agreed. I regretted it for 28 years. Pastor Caldwell spoke next, his voice heavy with disappointment. In 1998, Donald and Linda came to me for marriage counseling. They said they were having difficulties. They never mentioned the affair. They never mentioned the child. They took communion at our church. They served on boards. They taught Sunday school. All while hiding this. Charlotte Brennan stood up. She looked at Mom with tears in her eyes. I was Stephanie Morrison's friend. Her close friend. I knew about Nathan from the beginning. I watched her struggle as a single mother, working 2 jobs, raising that boy alone while you. She pointed at Linda. You sent her checks with notes that said, "Keep quiet." You threatened her. You told her if she ever contacted Donald or tried to put his name on the birth certificate, the payments would stop and you'd destroy her reputation. I wanted to speak up. You paid me $10,000 to stay silent. I took it because I needed it, and I'd been ashamed ever since. The room was in chaos now. People standing, whispering, some heading for the exits. Dad's colleagues from the bank were staring at him like they didn't know who he was. Mom was still crying, trying to speak. We did what we thought was best for the family, best for you, Rebecca said, her voice sharp. Not for Nathan, not for me and Andrea, for your reputation, for your perfect image. She turned to address the whole room. I spent 6 years investigating this. I found documents in my mother's filing cabinet during a visit in 2018, old bank statements, letters, the birth certificate. I spent months verifying everything. I hired a private investigator to find Nathan. I met him 2 years ago. I've been getting to know my brother, my half-brother, while my parents continued to lie. And I realized something. This family has built its entire identity on a foundation of lies. And I'm done being part of the performance. She looked at Dad. Happy retirement, Dad. I hope 40 years of lies was worth it. Then she walked toward the exit. Rachel stood up and followed her. I sat frozen in my chair, the letter in my hands, my mind unable to process what I'd just heard. I have a brother. A 28-year-old brother. Nathan Morrison. The room was collapsing. Half the guests were leaving, mumbling apologies, looking uncomfortable. Dad's bank colleagues practically ran for the door. Church friends were gathering their things, avoiding eye contact with my parents. Uncle Tom grabbed his jacket. Diane, we're leaving. Aunt Diane stood up, still crying. She looked at Mom one last time. 30 years, Linda. 30 years you let me think I was crazy for being upset about the business loan Tom helped with. You knew what it really was, and you let me doubt myself. They left. Melissa and Brian followed. Melissa and Beanie a sad, helpless look as she passed. Pastor Caldwell approached Dad. Don, I think you need to leave. This party is over. Dad finally moved. He set down his wineglass, his hands shaking. He looked around the room at the few remaining people. Then he looked at Mom. Linda, get your purse. We're going. Mom stood on shaky legs, grabbed her purse from the back of her chair, and they walked out through a side door. Not the grand exit they'd planned. A retreat. Within 10 minutes, the room was nearly empty. Just me, a few confused bank colleagues who didn't know what to do, and the catering staff who were standing awkwardly in the corner. I looked down at the letter in my hands. Read Rebecca's words again. "I'm sorry you're finding out this way." I stood up, grabbed my purse, and walked out to the parking lot. Rebecca was leaning against her car, a black Audi. Rachel was in the passenger seat, looking out the window. I walked up to her. "You couldn't have told me privately first." My voice came out sharper than I intended. Rebecca looked at me, her face tired but resolute. "Would you have let me do this if I had?" I opened my mouth. Closed it. No. Exactly. This family protects itself at all costs, Andrea. Someone had to blow it open. And it had to be public, because if I'd done it privately, Mom and Dad would have spun it, controlled the narrative, made me the villain. This way, everyone knows. There's no hiding it. I have a brother. You have a brother. You've known for 6 years. I've known for 6 years. I've known Nathan for 2. And you didn't tell me. I wanted to. God, Andrea, I wanted to tell you so many times, but I needed to be sure. I needed documentation. I needed to verify everything, because if I was wrong, if I accused them without proof, they'd bury me, and I needed to find Nathan to make sure he wanted this to come out. Does he want this? Rebecca nodded. He does. He spent 28 years being a secret. He's tired of being erased. I leaned against the car next to her. My legs felt weak. What happens now? Now the truth is out. Mom and Dad can't lie anymore. Nathan can decide if he wants a relationship with any of us. And you and I? She looked at me. We get to decide who we want to be. Do we keep playing our roles in their performance, or do we build something real? I didn't have an answer. Rebecca pushed off the car. Nathan's in Sacramento. He drove down from Portland this morning. He's been waiting to hear how this went. Do you want to meet him? My heart was pounding. Now? When you're ready. No pressure. I thought about it. Thought about everything I'd just learned. About the lies, the money, the 28-year-old man I'd never met who was my brother. Not tonight, I said. I need time to process this. Okay, when you're ready, call me. She got in her car and drove away. I stood in the parking lot of the Riverside Country Club as the sun started to set over the American River, and I tried to figure out who my family actually was. That night, I drove to my parents' house. I don't know why. Maybe I needed to hear it from them. Maybe I needed to see their faces when they tried to explain. Their house is in East Sacramento, a craftsman-style home they bought in 1988, back when the neighborhood was still affordable. Tree-lined street, wide front porch, the kind of house that screams respectable middle-class family. I parked on the street, walked up to the front door, used my key. The living room was dark. I found Mom sitting on the couch, lights off, staring at nothing. "Mom?" She looked up. Her face was blotchy, her eyes swollen. "Andrea." I sat down in the chair across from her. "Is it true?" She didn't answer right away. Then quietly, "Yes. All of it. The affair, Nathan, the money, everything?" "Yes." I felt something inside me crack. Why? It's complicated. Then uncomplicated. Explain it to me. She took a shaky breath. "The affair happened in 1994. Your father was under a lot of stress at work. There was a young woman at the bank, Stephanie Morrison. She was sweet, attentive. They started talking. It became more. He told me in early 1995, said it was over, said he'd made a terrible mistake. But it wasn't over. She was pregnant, she told him in May. He came to me, devastated. He wanted to do the right thing, he said. But we had 2 daughters. We had a life. A divorce would have ruined everything, so you decided to pay her off. We decided to support the child financially while protecting our family. You decided to erase him, to pretend he didn't exist. We gave him a good life, Andrea. Stephanie was able to stay home with him, to give him attention, opportunities. The money helped. It was hush money, Mom. It was support. I stood up. I couldn't sit anymore. You stole from me. From Rebecca. Grandma Catherine left that money to us, and you used it to cover up Dad's affair. We did what we had to do. You lied. For 30 years, you lied to everyone. To me, to Rebecca, to Uncle Tom, to your church. You stood up in front of that congregation every Sunday and pretended to be something you weren't. She started crying again. I was protecting this family. No, Mom. You were protecting yourself. There's a difference. Dad walked into the room then. I hadn't heard him come in. He looked older than he had that afternoon, smaller somehow. Andrea. Dad? We stared at each other. I'm sorry you had to find out that way, he said. Are you sorry it happened? Or sorry you got caught? He flinched. Both. Where is he, Nathan? I don't know. I haven't seen him since he was born. You've never met your own son. It was part of the agreement. The agreement you made with his mother to keep him a secret. Yes, I looked at both of them. These people I called Mom and Dad for 34 years, and I didn't recognize them. I need time, I said. I can't process this right now. I can't look at you right now. Andrea, please, Mom started. No. I need space. Don't call me. I'll reach out when I'm ready. I walked out and drove home. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying everything. The envelopes. Rebecca's voice, Uncle Tom's anger, Mom's tears, Dad's silence. I have a brother. His name is Nathan Morrison. He's 28 years old. He's a teacher. And I've never met him. Sunday morning, October 15th, I texted Rebecca, I want to meet him. She responded immediately. When? Today, if he's willing. He is. I'll set it up. An hour later, Rebecca called. Insight Coffee on J Street. Noon. He'll be there. Okay. Andrea. He's nervous. He's been waiting 28 years for his family to acknowledge him. Be kind. I will. At 11:55 a.m., I parked near Insight Coffee in Midtown Sacramento. It's a small place, exposed brick. Local art on the walls, the kind of coffee shop where freelancers camp out with laptops. I walked in at exactly noon. A man was sitting at a corner table, tall, maybe 6'1", brown hair, wearing jeans and a gray sweater. He was looking at his phone, nervous energy radiating off him. Then he looked up. And I saw my father's eyes. Same exact shape, same color. But the nose was different, softer. And the smile, when he gave a tentative small smile, that was different too. He stood up. Andrea? Nathan? We stared at each other for a moment. Then I walked over. We didn't hug. It felt too soon for that. We just sat down across from each other. Hi, I said. Hi. Silence. Then we both started laughing, nervous, uncomfortable laughing. This is so weird, I said. The weirdest, he agreed. A barista came over. We ordered coffee, gave us something to do with our hands while we figured out what to say. I'm sorry, I said. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I know. Rebecca told me. She said you and her weren't close, that you were kept in the dark about a lot of things. She's right, we weren't close. And apparently I was kept in the dark about the biggest thing. Nathan stirred sugar into his coffee. Can I ask you something? Anything. What was he like, growing up as a dad? I thought about it. Really thought about it. He was present but distant. He went to work, came home, read the paper, watched TV. He wasn't mean, he wasn't absent. He just wasn't particularly engaged. He'd ask about school, but in that generic way adults do when they're supposed to. He came to my plays when I was in drama club, but he'd sit in the back and leave at intermission. He was there, but he wasn't really there. Does that make sense? Nathan nodded. Yeah, it does. What about you? What was your childhood like? My mom was amazing. Is amazing. She worked 2 jobs when I was little, but she made it work. I never felt like I was missing anything except, he paused, except a dad. I knew other kids had dads. I'd ask my mom about mine, and she'd get this look on her face, sad and guilty at the same time. She'd say, "Your father is a good man who made a hard choice." That's it. That's all she'd say. When did you find out his name? My 18th birthday. Mom sat me down and told me everything. Who he was, where he worked, that he was married, that he had 2 daughters. She showed me his picture from the bank website. I looked him up on Facebook, found photos of your family. Christmas cards, vacation photos. I saw you and Rebecca. I saw this whole life he had that didn't include me. What did you do? Nothing. Mom asked me not to reach out. She said she'd made an agreement, that the money we received was in exchange for staying away. I was angry, but I respected her wishes, so I just lived my life. Went to college, became a teacher, got married last year to my wife Emily. I built a life that didn't need him. But you wanted to be acknowledged. Yeah. I wanted to know that I mattered, that I wasn't just a mistake to be hidden. The coffee arrived. We drank in silence for a minute. Rebecca found me 2 years ago, Nathan continued. Showed up at my school in Portland, introduced herself, showed me documents proving we were related. I was shocked. I didn't think anyone in your family knew about me, but she'd known for 4 years by that point, had spent all that time investigating, verifying. Why did she wait so long to contact you? She wanted to be sure. And she wanted to have all the evidence before she confronted your parents. She's a lawyer. She builds cases. This was her case. Did she tell you what she was planning? The party? Yeah. About 6 months ago. She asked if I was okay with it, with her exposing everything publicly. I said yes. I'm tired of being a secret, Andrea. I'm 28 years old, and I've spent my entire life feeling like I'm not allowed to exist because it would inconvenience your father's reputation. I get it. I'm sorry. You don't need to apologize. You didn't do anything wrong. Neither did you. We looked at each other. This stranger who was my brother. What do you want? I asked. From this situation, from me, from our parents. What do you want? Nathan thought about it for a long time. Honestly, I don't know. I don't need a father at 28. I needed one at 8. That ship has sailed. But I'd like to know my sisters, if you're open to it. I'd like to not be a secret anymore. I'm open to it? Yeah? Yeah. I mean, this is all insane and overwhelming, and I'm still processing, but you're my brother. I didn't know you existed 3 days ago, and now you do. And I think I'd like to know you. He smiled. A real smile this time. I'd like that too. The door opened and Rebecca walked in with Rachel. They came over to our table. Room for 2 more? Rebecca asked. Always, Nathan said. Rebecca and Rachel sat down. Rachel looked at Nathan, shy. Hi, Uncle Nathan. Nathan's eyes got wet. Hi, Rachel. We sat there, the 4 of us. 3 siblings who were just meeting, really meeting, for the first time. And a 15-year-old girl who was watching her mother do the hardest, bravest thing she'd ever done. So, Rebecca said, looking at all of us. What now? Now, Nathan said. We get to know each other. No secrets, no performance, just the truth. I can do truth, I said. Me too, Rachel added. Rebecca raised her coffee cup. To the truth then, however messy it is. We clinked our cups together. It wasn't a happy family reunion. It wasn't a Hallmark movie. It was 4 people sitting in a coffee shop, trying to build something real out of the wreckage of something fake. But it was a start. Over the next 2 weeks, the fallout spread through Sacramento like wildfire. Uncle Tom sent Dad an email. Rebecca forwarded it to me. It was 2 sentences. I'm done. You used me. You lied to my wife, and you made me complicit in fraud. Don't contact us again. Aunt Diane filed for separation from Uncle Tom 3 days after the party. Not because she blamed him, but because the revelation had cracked open other issues in their marriage. They'd been to counseling before over the mysterious business loan situation. And now that the truth was out, Diane realized how much Tom had kept from her. Even if it was to protect Dad, they reconciled 2 months later after intensive marriage counseling, but the relationship with my parents was severed. Thanksgiving was going to be very different this year. At church, things got complicated. Pastor Caldwell called a private meeting with the church board the Sunday after the party. I wasn't there, but Aunt Diane told me what happened later. He presented the facts. Donald and Linda Hayes had lied during marriage counseling, had hidden a major moral failing, had served in leadership positions while actively deceiving the congregation. The board asked them to step down from all positions. Quietly, without public announcement, but everyone knew why. My parents stopped going to church entirely after that. Too much shame, too many whispers. At Pacific Trust Bank, Dad's legacy took a hit. Philip Morse, despite his own guilt, reported the financial misappropriation to the current CEO. The amounts were small, had happened decades ago, and Dad was already retiring, so there were no criminal charges. But the retirement party they planned to throw for him at the bank, scheduled for the following week, was quietly canceled. His portrait, which was supposed to go up in the executive hallway alongside other long-serving VPs, never got hung. 40 years at the bank, and his legacy was tarnished in 6 minutes. Mom became a recluse. She stopped going to dire meetings, stopped volunteering, stopped answering calls from friends. Charlotte Brennan tried to reach out, sent an apology letter for her own role in the cover-up, but Mom never responded. The perfect reputation she'd spent 40 years building was gone. And me? I was caught in the middle. My parents wanted me to talk sense into Rebecca, to somehow fix this, to make it go away. Rebecca wanted me to cut them off completely, to stand with her and Nathan in solidarity. I chose the middle path. I kept limited contact with my parents. I'd check in once a week, brief phone calls, making sure they were okay but making it clear I was hurt and needed space. And I built a relationship with Nathan and Rebecca. We met for coffee every Wednesday. Nathan would drive down from Portland, or we'd meet halfway in Eugene. Sometimes Rebecca came. Sometimes Rebecca came. Sometimes it was just Nathan and me. We talked about everything. Teaching, we both taught, different grades, but the struggles were universal. Books, politics, family dynamics. We swapped childhood stories. I told him about growing up in the Hayes house, the pressure to be perfect, the feeling of being invisible compared to Rebecca. He told me about growing up without a father, the questions that never got answered, the ache of seeing other kids with dads at soccer games and school events. We were strangers, but we were also family. And slowly, we were becoming something more. Siblings. 3 weeks after the party, I finally went to my parents' house to have a real conversation. I called ahead. I'm coming over. We need to talk. Mom answered the door. She looked terrible. She'd lost weight, wasn't wearing makeup, her hair was pulled back in a messy bun. This was not the Linda Hayes who'd hosted retirement parties and dare luncheons. Hi, honey. Hi, Mom. Dad was in the living room, same chair he always sat in. He stood when I walked in. Andrea. Dad. He sat. Awkward, painful silence. I spoke first. I'm angry. I'm hurt. You lied to me my entire life. You stole from me. You erased my brother. Mom started to interrupt, but I held up my hand. Let me finish. You stole $150,000 from me. That was my inheritance from Grandma Catherine. money she left for me to build my life with. You used it to pay off Dad's mistress, to keep his illegitimate son a secret. That's not protecting the family. That's protecting yourselves. Dad's voice was quiet. We did what we thought was best. Best for who? Not for Nathan. Not for me and Rebecca. For you. We were trying to keep the family together, Mom said. You were trying to keep your reputation intact. There's a difference. They didn't argue. They couldn't. I leaned forward. Here's what's going to happen. I'm not cutting you out of my life. But I'm not pretending this didn't happen either. I'm building a relationship with Nathan. If you can't accept that, then we're going to have a problem. Andrea, and you owe Rebecca an apology. A real one. She spent 6 years carrying this secret, trying to figure out how to do the right thing. And when she finally did, you called her cruel. You called her vindictive. She's not. She's honest. And this family isn't used to honesty. Mom was crying again. Soft, broken tears. Dad spoke. What do you want us to do? I want you to stop lying. To me, to each other, to yourselves. I want you to admit what you did was wrong. Not, we did what we thought was best. Not, it was complicated. Just, we were wrong. Silence. Then Dad, in a voice I'd never heard before, small and broken, we were wrong. It was the first honest thing he'd said in weeks. Mom nodded. We were wrong. I sat back. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was acknowledgement. There's something else, I said. Nathan wants to meet you, not to have a relationship necessarily, but to be acknowledged. He deserves that. Mom's face went pale. I can't. Andrea, I can't face him. Why not? Because I'm ashamed. Good. You should be. But he exists, Mom. He's not going away because it's uncomfortable for you. Dad spoke. I'll meet him. We both looked at him surprised. I'll meet him, Dad said again. I owe him that. I owe him that. I owe him more than that, but that's a start. When? I asked. Whenever he's willing. I texted Nathan that night. Dad wants to meet you. His response came 10 minutes later. Okay. When? I set it up for the following Saturday. Neutral location. A Starbucks in downtown Sacramento. I'd be there too, mediator and witness. Saturday morning, November 4th, I arrived early. Dad was already there, sitting at a corner table with a black coffee he wasn't drinking. He looked nervous. You okay? I asked. No. But I'm here. At 10 a.m. exactly, Nathan walked in. He saw us, walked over, stood in front of the table. Dad stood up. They looked at each other. Father and son, meeting for the first time in 28 years. Nathan, Dad said. Mr. Hayes. Not Dad. Mr. Hayes. Not Dad. Mr. Hayes. Thank you for coming, Dad said. Andrea said you wanted to meet. I did. I do. Dad gestured to a chair. Please, sit. Nathan sat. I sat next to him. Dad sat across from us. Silence. Painful, heavy silence. Dad spoke first. I don't know what to say. I'm sorry, seems inadequate. It is, Nathan said. Not cruel, just factual. I was a coward. I made a choice when I was 35 years old, and I kept making that choice every day for 30 years. I chose my reputation over you. I chose comfort over truth. I abandoned you. Nathan didn't respond, just listened. I can't fix that, Dad continued. I can't give you back your childhood. I can't undo the damage. But I want you to know. I'm sorry. I'm deeply, truly sorry. Nathan stared at him for a long time. Then he said, Did you ever think about me? Dad's face crumpled. Every day. Did you ever want to meet me? Yes. But you didn't. No. Why not? Because I was afraid. Of what it would mean. Of what people would think. Of losing everything I built. You were more afraid of losing your reputation than of losing your son. Dad nodded, tears in his eyes. Yes. Nathan leaned back. I don't forgive you. Dad nodded. I understand, but I appreciate you saying it. I appreciate you showing up today. If you ever want to talk again, I'll be here. I don't know if I will, but I'll keep that in mind. They shook hands. Formal, stiff. The handshake of business associates, not family. Nathan left. Dad and I sat there for a long time. That went as well as I deserved, Dad said. Yeah. Do you think he'll ever forgive me? I don't know, Dad. That's not up to me. He nodded. Stared at his cold coffee. I ruined everything, didn't I? Yeah, you did. He looked at me. Can you forgive me? I don't know yet. Ask me again in a year. It was the most honest conversation we'd ever had. November moved into December. The holidays were approaching, and for the first time in my life, I didn't know where I'd spend them. Usually, it was my parents' house. Big dinner, extended family, the whole traditional thing. But this year, Uncle Tom's family wasn't speaking to us. Half the family friends had quietly distanced themselves, and Rebecca had made it clear she wasn't setting foot in that house again. On December 10th, I texted the group chat I'd started with Rebecca and Nathan. What are you guys doing for Thanksgiving? Rebecca? Cooking at my place in SF. Just me and Rachel. Nathan, Emily and I are staying in Portland. Quiet holiday. Me, what if we all got together? My place. Nothing fancy, just us. Rebecca, seriously? Me? Yeah. First holiday as the actual full family. What do you think? Nathan? I'm in. Rebecca? Me too. So that's what we did. Thanksgiving 2024. My small town house in Land Park. 6 people. Me. Rebecca. Rachel. Nathan. Nathan's wife Emily, who I'd met twice by then. A kind woman who taught elementary school. And Marcus, a guy I'd been seeing casually for a few months. A history teacher at the high school where I taught. No parents. No extended family. Just us. We cooked together. Turkey, mashed potatoes, green beans, pumpkin pie. We ate at my small dining table, squeezed in elbow to elbow. We told stories, laughed, argued about whether stuffing should have raisins. Nathan said yes, the rest of us disagreed. It was chaotic, it was imperfect, it was real. After dinner, we sat in my living room. Rebecca pulled out her phone and showed us photos. I've been documenting everything, she said. The investigation, the evidence, the meeting with Nathan. I want Rachel to have a record of what really happened, not the version Mom and Dad would tell. She showed us a photo from the retirement party, taken right before she handed out the envelopes. Mom and Dad smiling, clueless. Then a photo from 2 weeks ago, the 4 of us at coffee, Rachel, Nathan, Rebecca, and me. All laughing at something Nathan had said. Same family, Rebecca said, different truth. Nathan looked at the photo for a long time. I spent 28 years wishing I belonged to a family, he said quietly. Turns out I did. I just didn't know it. Rachel, Rebecca's daughter, spoke up. Mom, why did you do it? The envelopes? The public thing? You could have told Grandma and Grandpa privately. Rebecca looked at her daughter. Because private conversations in this family get buried, Rachel. I tried talking to them 6 years ago when I first found out. Your grandmother hung up on me. Your grandfather threatened to cut me off financially if I caused trouble. This family doesn't do honesty in private. It does performance. So I had to make it public, where they couldn't hide, couldn't spin it, couldn't make me the villain. Was it worth it? Rachel asked. Rebecca looked at me, at Nathan, at Emily. Yeah, it was. We stayed up late that night, talking, sharing stories, building something new out of the rubble of something old. And when everyone left, when it was just me and Gatsby the cat in my quiet townhouse, I sat on my couch and thought about family. About what it means. About what it costs. The Hayes family looked perfect for 30 years. Perfect house, perfect reputation, perfect holiday cards. But it was built on lies, and lies no matter how carefully maintained, eventually collapse. Rebecca's envelopes didn't destroy our family. They revealed what was already broken. And in the wreckage, we found something better. The truth. I don't know what happens next with my parents. Mom still won't meet Nathan. Dad has reached out twice. Awkward emails asking how Nathan's doing, offering to meet again. Nathan hasn't responded yet. Maybe he will. Maybe he won't. That's his choice. Rebecca and I are closer now than we've ever been. We talk every day. We've started planning a trip together next summer. Just the two of us. Something we've never done. And Nathan is part of my life now. We text about teaching, about books, about life. He's my brother. Not half. Just brother. On December 20th, I got a letter in the mail. From Mom. It was handwritten. 3 pages, her neat cursive filling the paper. She didn't apologize for the affair or the cover-up, but she did say this. I'm learning that protecting an image is not the same as protecting a family. I spent 30 years trying to control how people saw us, and I lost sight of who we actually were. I don't know how to fix what I've broken, but I'm trying to understand it. I hope that's a start. It wasn't enough, but it was something. I'm not ready to forgive yet. Maybe I will be someday. Maybe I won't. But I'm learning that family isn't about perfection. It's about truth. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do is burn down the lies so something real can grow. My sister handed out 15 envelopes at my dad's retirement party. In 6 minutes, she exposed 30 years of secrets. It was brutal. It was public. It was absolutely necessary. Because some families need to be broken open before they can be honest. And honesty, it turns out, is the only foundation worth building on. Now I'm standing in my classroom. Winter break just started. The hall's empty. On my desk, I have 2 photos. One from the retirement party before the envelopes. My family, smiling, perfect. One from Thanksgiving, at my house. 6 people squeezed around my table, laughing. Same family, different truth. And I'll take the truth every single time. Have you ever discovered a family secret that changed everything you thought you knew? Have you ever been the one who had to decide whether to keep the secret or expose the truth? What would you have done in Rebecca's position? Drop a comment. And if you've ever found out you had a sibling you never knew about, type family secrets. I want to hear your story. If this story shook you, if you understand what it's like when the perfect family image cracks and the truth comes pouring out, hit subscribe. These are real stories about real families and the moment everything changed. Check the description for another story about families, lies, and the cost of keeping up appearances. Thank you for being here. The truth is hard, but it's always worth it.